But I definitely want to show some love to Sac, though, because we talk ball. Let's
that
just
is
talk
the point.
ball.
That is a good team. And we said it before you left, because I stayed in L.A., and before you left, it was like, that is not an easy game.
That's
a tough team.
That's a tough team for anybody in the league. I don't care if you're the Boston Celtics.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Kings Court podcast, presented to you by SacktownRoyalty.com and sponsored by RateCrushers.com. Everyone go to Rate Crushers if you're looking for any type of insurance, whether that be renters, motorcycle, rent, leisure, any type of insurance you need. The brokers over at Rate Crushers have you covered, beating up the competition up to 35%. It's been a very exciting week here in Sacramento, especially covering the Sacramento Kings as the Sacramento Kings. And it wasn't ugly. It was very ugly. It was very ugly. It was pretty exhausting. But they do make it 6 in a row for the very first time since 2004. Sacramento Kings have won 6 games in a row. On that team, you still had Mike Bibby. You still had Chris Webber. You still had the old crew that everyone loves to talk about. And, you know, you're starting to see that change now in Sacramento, which is amazing to see, where if you say, hey, do you know the Kings? Prior to the Kings starting to become successful, you always hear like, oh, I remember watching them back in the Mike Bibby days, back in the Chris Webber days. You know, you hear people say that a lot. But now it's different. Now the Kings have won 6 in a row. They're getting a lot of national media attention. You know, Matt Barnes was just recently on the Low Post with Zach Lowe. You heard, I was listening to Sirius XM radio the other day, just driving around. They did a full 30-minute segment on their radio show, just talking about the Kings and debating on who deserves the most credit for the success of the Kings so far this season. Obviously, a lot of it's going to turn to Mike Brown, and I think that's what you have to turn to at this point. I mean, not much has really changed on this team away from getting Kevin Huerter, getting Keegan Murray, and Malik Monk. This team is essentially the same exact team that it was last season. Now, I get it. There wasn't Domantas Sabonis for the entirety of the season. You had him from February all the way till the end of the year, and there was promising signs there. But again, the team is still relatively the same. And now they're winning games, and I think it's more so the fact that this team has bought into what their head coach is saying. Look, since the beginning of the offseason and throughout the entire preseason, but a majority of it was just through that offseason and a lot through training camp and things like that, where the biggest takeaway I had from listening to everyone and being able to talk with people that are very close to the situation was these players are taking ownership of the things that they need to improve on. This team knows what they need to do to be successful, and they're believing in Mike Brown. And I think that's one thing that, you know, a lot of us said that Mike Brown has, with his resume, has earned the respect to come into any franchise, and especially this Kings franchise that has struggled for so long, and demand the ears and the attention of the players that are here in that locker room. And he has gotten that and then some. This team is buying in 1,000%. And it's great to see. Even the leader, De'Aaron Fox, goes on the jump over this past week. And the entire time he's talking, the majority of it is all about, you know, Mike Brown. And Mike Brown says this, and I couldn't be this type of player without Mike Brown. And, you know, you have to, that is credit to Mike Brown for the success of this team. And I don't think you can take that away from him at all. At all. You have to love the attention that you're getting. And now to see a player of Kevin Durant's caliber really giving, you know, the Kings some love. And here, and actually I have the quote here from De'Aaron Fox.
To be that great leader
If
on
it's
the
playing.
team, especially
It
with
should be
so
playing.
many younger guys that's younger than you.
Let's see if I can get that content up for you guys.
What's the necessary steps that you're taking to be that great leader on the team, especially with so
Oh, technical difficulties. Maybe it's not going to pop up for you guys. But regardless, it's just him talking about Mike Brown and giving him that attention that he deserves. But then to hear Kevin Durant, player of his caliber, someone that was just recently in Sacramento and got blown out by this team on TNT, knowing that it wasn't going to be an easy game out, and just giving this team that respect. And, you know, even guys like Greg Popovich after the game against the Spurs, talking about this defense was solid that night. And there's definitely room for improvement. And you've seen that against the Detroit Pistons. The Sacramento Kings do defeat the Detroit Pistons to make it 6 straight. And again, a very ugly win. It was exhausting to watch. You didn't know which direction the Kings were going to go in. And they pulled it out at the very end. And I like that Mike Brown was very critical of this team after that loss. Very critical of this team after that loss. Talking about, they need to be better.
HB's been playing well. I thought he stepped up on both ends of the floor and had another big game for us. Him getting to the free throw line 11 times, him shooting the way he shot the ball, making smart plays, especially down the stretch, never panicking. And then him on a tough assignment and Bogdanovich, he did a nice job. But we as a group have to understand that when that ball goes up, we have to be better defensively. We have to play with a physicality without fouling. And we have to be locked into what our job is supposed to be. We were not good at all defensively tonight. And I say that because we haven't been great, but prior to tonight, I think in the last 10 games, we were around 19th defensively. I think I saw something like that in terms of defensive rating. And so we're getting better. But I thought tonight, and you give Detroit a lot of credit because Case has those guys playing extremely hard. You give them a lot of credit, but I didn't like our approach. And I didn't like, especially early on, and I didn't like how we responded, especially after they hit a couple of shots. Teams in this business, if you give them an opportunity to get rhythm, it can be a long, long night. And we got lucky down the stretch to get this win. It's not always about the wins and losses.
Love how critical he is
It's
on
about
this
playing
team.
the right way and approaching the game the right way. And we as a group, starting with me, somehow, some way have to do a better job with it.
Love how critical Mike Brown is. We got lucky. We got lucky, he says, to get this win. And you know what? He is not wrong. That Kings team was not stopping anyone on the Detroit Pistons. Bojan Bogdanovich was looking like DeMar DeRozan out there and was pulling up three-pointers like crazy, wide open three-pointers. Jay Ivey looked like he'd been in the league for 5 years. He's a rookie. He's carving up that defense. He's getting down into the paint. Momentum did start to swing in the middle of that third quarter. Unfortunately, it was to the loss of Malik Monk in that game. It was very disappointing to see Monk get tossed due to an excitement scream. But, if that was any other game and it was on the Kings fans would be asking for that person to also be kicked out. So I understand from the ref's point of view, I understood why they ejected Malik Monk. And honestly, that was probably the turning point for the Kings to be able to see their player go out. The excitement that he brought from that steal, finishing with the layup with contact, getting to the line, then Fox being able to start getting that rhythm going, knocking down that free throw, steal from Kevin Huerter. You got to see a blur in action. Man, De'Aaron Fox in transition is still one of the fastest players in the league. And to finish that on Jaden Ivey, the momentum truly started to swing in the Kings' direction to end that game. And man, was it fun to watch. But again, I loved what Mike Brown said. We got lucky. And he's not lying. The defense was absolutely horrible. And look, I get it. And I have a stat for you guys. That's going to be, it's great to hear for the Kings. But I mean, it's not like it's something that always should be bragged about. But here's that stat. You know what I mean? So.
You play to win the game. Not a game. Hello? You have to know these things when you're a king,
Look, guys, so the Sacramento Kings, great stat for you guys, and that's the Who Dat. This is going to be the Who Dat stats of the week. Look, the Kings are 28th in defensive efficiency, giving up 113.4 points per game in defensive efficiency. That is actually exactly where they were last season. So their defense with a defensive-minded head coach has truly not improved at all. However, on the offensive side, and wow, like this is the stat that drives me crazy is the 9-6 Kings. They're averaging 121.4 points per game. And that's not just the number one team in the NBA this year, but that's the most by any team, points per game wise, 121.4, the most by any team since the 1984 Denver Nuggets. That's how good on offense they are playing. That's how efficient they are playing. They have found their rhythm offensively, and now it's time to start building that rhythm defensively, because defense, from all coaches that you talk to, defense is nothing but energy. Defense is nothing but energy. Consistency. And the Kings just don't have it right now. They have their rhythm going on offense. And look, they're truly confident. Look, even De'Aaron Fox post game after that Pistons win, you know, I did like some of the things that he said, but there's just those comments now where like the Kings are riding a bit on a high, where it's like, oh, you know, if it comes down to the closing minutes of a game, and I'm paraphrasing here, but when it comes down to the closing minutes of a game, I believe we have the players that can come in and get us the baskets when needed. But what about the stops when they're needed? And that's where the Kings are going to have to take their next step in their development as a team. And if they want to be considered a real playoff team this year, they're currently sitting 5th in the Western Conference, guys. The Lakers are still struggling. The Blazers just lost Damian Lillard once again for at least 2 more weeks. The Denver Nuggets are struggling a bit because Jokic has COVID. Jamal Murray's dealing with some injuries, and same with Aaron Gordon. And by the way, they play the Detroit Pistons tonight, so we'll see how that goes. The Kings are in a moment now where through this 3-game span, yes, you're going to be able to see how good your offense is, especially going up against the Memphis Grizzlies tonight, Tuesday, and seeing where you are there. But there could be no Ja Morant. There's definitely no Desmond Bane. What type of Jaren Jackson are you going to see? I think getting into him is going to be very important, and we'll go over that game in just a moment. But the Kings truly need to start buckling down defensively. And it's not in certain quarters, because look, in the closing moments of games, when they know they need baskets, it's crazy to see it, but they lock in defensively. They lock in defensively, and it's actually a lot of fun to watch them play defense in those moments. De'Aaron Fox will start going over on screens, using his quickness to recover, staying there in front of his guy. The closeouts on 3-point shots, they're not just giving them open, their hands in the face, they're getting there, they're staying physical. In those moments when the game is starting to come down the line, then the Kings start ramping it up. But you can't always rely on their offense to bail you out. And that's why I continue to ask this team. And I had Grant Napier on a few weeks ago, and he goes, look, it's all great when the offense is working, but what's this team going to look like when shots aren't falling? And look, they're going to have a tough task on this road trip going up against the Boston Celtics, the Atlanta Hawks, and tonight against the Memphis Grizzlies. And that's where I want to hear from you guys. Look, they have these 3 games on the road. Atlanta Hawks are going to be a definitely tough one. I'm excited for that game. The Boston Celtics, look, the Celtics have the number 1 offensive efficiency in the league right now. Kings have the most points scored per game, but offensive efficiency, the Boston Celtics are number 1. The Sacramento Kings sit there right below them at number 2. Those heads will collide later on this week. I'm excited to hear what you guys are thinking about that one. Again, the Memphis Grizzlies have upgraded Ja Morant to questionable from this game. So he went into this game with a high ankle sprain, and it was expected for him to be week to week. He missed 1 week. I believe it was 3 games. And now entering today, as of yesterday, he was listed as doubtful. But Memphis came out today and they said they've upgraded him to questionable. Now, there's no guarantee he's going to play. He's definitely going to test it out a bit. I think these are one of those moments where you know Ja Morant is a player. He sees that the Sacramento Kings are hot. They're coming in on his home floor. This game is going to matter, especially later on down the line, if the Kings consistently keep getting these type of wins and can find their defensive mojo, this could be a potential playoff matchup if it so happens to land that way. Trying to see where the Kings currently sit 5th in the Western Conference with a 9-6 record, and the Memphis Grizzlies are 10-7, sitting at 7th. So they're essentially tied. They just have the extra game there. But this is a big moment for the Kings. This is a big game for the Kings. And odds makers have them as a pick'em. They're plus 1.5, but I expect by the time tip-off comes around, there will be no spread. It'll be minus 115 to minus 115. I'm still leaning Kings. I think you ride in on that hot wave. I think Mike Brown is definitely going to settle them down, especially after those comments. To have your head coach come after this, a big win where the Kings have, again, first time since 2004, 6-game win streak, to come out and say, we got lucky. To come out and say, we need to be better. After scoring 130-plus points, I think they're going to be cool-minded heading into this game. And I do like them in this matchup. Even if Ja Morant plays, there's still no Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane is still dealing with his injury. Jaren Jackson, he's still playing limited minutes, but he is back. It is nice to see him back on the floor. He is playing better. But this is going to be a tough matchup and a very good game to keep your eyes on for the Sacramento Kings to see where they are after that 6th win. Because, look, there's still this cloud over the Kings, right? There's still this oh, it's just Kangs. Oh, this is nice. This is nice. The Kings are playing better. But it's Kangs, and I feel like people are starting to wash that away, but it's definitely still there, and it's definitely still in the cloud around Sacramento, where at some point they feel like the shoe's got to come off. At some point they feel like everything's got to normal out, and this probably isn't going to be that good of a team at some point. That's just a cloud that sits over. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not going to say I want that to happen, but that is like the sense I get when I talk to a lot of people. I was just talking to someone the other day, and they said, it's nice that the Kings are on a 6-game winning streak, but they didn't really beat anybody, right? I said, what do you mean? They go, it's a Kevin Durant only Nets team. And the only good team they really played is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I can see where an argument can be made by that, right? I mean, the Spurs really had nobody. The Pistons are a real rebuilding team. They're in the Wembanyama sweepstakes, I mean, the Cavs were definitely a real team. To see that Brooklyn, they're a team that's, whatever, but Golden State, that's not a fake win. As much as people want to hate on the Lakers, that's not a fake win either. Okay, so let's say that is true, though. The wins, maybe it's a bit of a nice stretch of games where the Kings were supposed to be dominant and they handled business. Well, then that's a step in the right direction, because this team would have never done that in the past. The team would have never done that in the past. When there was a stretch of games where the Kings should have went 2-3, they went 1-3. That was a disappointing thing to see at times for the Sacramento Kings. So seeing that, like, oh, hey, they just took advantage of bad teams and they were supposed to win those games. So look, they just got a good stretch. Well, good. That's a step in the right. That's what you need to see from a playoff team. They took care of home court. They beat teams that they were supposed to beat. I'm not sure where the real issue is there, but okay. The 6-game win streak to some, it just feels like the Kings got quote unquote lucky because of their stretch of games. Okay, well, now the test is here. And we're going to see how the Kings respond to a lot of this stuff and respond to, a tough task, a tough road trip. How does their offensive game do on the road? Can they start finding the basket? Can they start finding the net in Memphis, in Atlanta, and in Boston? We're going to continue the conversation here after the break by this commercial by Rate Crushers. We're going to go over NBA best bets. The best bets you can see through Tuesday night. It's the first week I am back on NBA best bets. And by the way, guys, we are sponsored by DraftKings. So all the odds you are seeing are coming from DraftKings Sportsbook. That's right. I'll have a link down in the description below how you guys can sign up, and they'll match your very first deposit. Good stuff coming up after the break where we're going to talk about that. You guys are going to be able to call in after the break as well. I want to start seeing you guys in the comments section below. Let me know what you guys think. How are the Kings going to do on this road trip? Can they still too? Can they beat the Grizzlies and the Atlanta Hawks and maybe question what happens against the Celtics, who just got banged by the Chicago Bulls last night? We'll talk about all that and more right here after this commercial break.
But I definitely want to show some love to Sac though, because
Yes,
we talk ball. Let's
that
just
is
talk
the point.
ball.
They,
Um,
that is a good team, and we said it before you left, because I stayed in LA, and before you left, it was like that is not an easy game.
That's
a tough team.
That's a
right
tough
there.
team for anybody in the league. I don't care if you're the Boston Celtics.
That was
I don't care if you're the Boston Celtics. The Kings are a tough outing. Man, that's going to be a good one. I'm excited for that game. I'm excited to see where the Sacramento Kings are. The 9-6 Sacramento Kings, the 5th in the Western Conference. Sacramento Kings, I want to see where they are. Again, welcome to the Kings Court podcast, presented to you by SactownRoyalty.com and sponsored by, as you guys saw by the commercials, RateCrushers.com. If you haven't done so already and this is your first time watching this show and enjoying this show, please do me a huge favor and hit that thumbs up button as well as that subscribe button. We're providing you guys with great content throughout the entire season, with more stuff growing down behind the scenes, the things Harrison, my editor over at Sacktown, and I are working on to get more content for you guys here on the show. Is going to be amazing. We have amazing guests that join on the show every single week. I lied, not every single week, but we have a ton of guests throughout the entire season. Like I said, we just recently had Grant Napier on. I have my co-writer Jordan on just recently as well, or Leo on recently as well. So a lot of good stuff coming here from the Kings Court podcast. Be sure to bookmark SactownRoyalty.com for all of your in-depth Sacramento Kings coverage as well. And later on, so on next week's show, after Thanksgiving, after the holiday, we will be giving away tickets to a future game. So stay tuned on for that. All you guys got to do is hit that subscribe button and watch live and figure out how to win those tickets on the next show. So I think, guys, it's time. I don't think we should wait any longer. It is going to be that time where we talk about the games of the week.
We can't have anyone freak out there, okay? Gotta keep our composure.
All right, guys, this segment is NBA Best Bets, presented to you by DraftKings.com. Look, guys, we have, what is that, 4 games on a Tuesday slate. You guys are seeing it first here live on the Kings Court. Man, last year I finished with a 53.2% win percentage. I'm hoping to do that once again here. NBABestBets.substack.com. If you guys aren't already subscribed to that, that is where I give out my picks. You guys go ahead and become a follower there. I'm going to be giving out my Excel sheet of my wins and my losses, giving out free picks all season long. And here we started off once again with this week where we are talking all 4 games and seeing what we like here. So the Brooklyn Nets are 8-point favorites against a very depleted Philadelphia 76ers team. The Nets are 8-point favorites heading into Philadelphia. The return of Ben Simmons, who has been balling out over these last 2 games. Look, guys, I like the Brooklyn Nets minus the 8 points here. I think it's very easy for the Kings or for the Nets to go on in this incredible run. I don't think it's going to be an easy game by any means, but I do think they get a lead early. They give up a little bit during the middle where they start finding their way. But this is a game where you're going to believe in this Nets team again. The national media is going to believe in this team once again. Kyrie Irving's going to look phenomenal. Kevin Durant's going to be Kevin Durant, and Ben Simmons is going to be modest. I don't know how he's going to handle this crowd, but he's playing so much better over these last few games that you have to believe that momentum is going to carry on where there's no Joel Embiid, no James Harden, no Tyrese Maxey, a questionable tag over Tobias Harris. So who's there? You're going to see Niang, Shake Milton, the other Milton, or D'Anthony Melton and Shake Milton. Sorry. And I love when the telecast has to talk about that the entire time. But yeah, this should be a guaranteed win for the Nets. I mean, obviously it's the NBA and nothing's guaranteed, and it's the Brooklyn Nets and nothing is ever guaranteed. But this is a good get-right game for the Nets, who have been struggling to start this season, but now have Kyrie Irving back in their lineup. So I like the Brooklyn Nets -8, and I want to go ahead and go into these props because I feel in this game that's where you're going to make a majority of your money is through these prop bets, right? So if you go into the points over and under, let's go ahead and look here. And Kyrie Irving sitting at 21.5 points. I'm going to go ahead and hit the over on that. I believe he's going to score at least 23 points in this game today. And then you have a guy in Kevin Durant who's sitting at 27.5. That odds maker have it at 117 to a -112 on the over under. Look, I like the under on this one. I don't think Kevin Durant's going to need to score 30 points in this game. I also believe that this is a game where they're going to start feeding a bit to Ben Simmons to let him get that rhythm, let him build that confidence. Because, look, people want to hate on Ben Simmons as much as I think you can on a guy that, dealt with mental issues openly, had those issues with his back, but guys like Stephen A. Smith and all these people talking about, I don't know who this guy is. Where is he? He's MIA on this team and yada, yada, yada. Look, he's coming off of back surgery. The guy is also dealing with mental issues where confidence is lacking. Now his confidence is building. And now you're starting to slowly see Ben Simmons becoming Ben Simmons once again. And it's crazy that it came after that team meeting. So those are the two I really think it is. So I think it's going to be over 21.5 points for Kyrie Irving. And I think it's going to be under 27.5 for Kevin Durant in this game. Again, we are now in the NBA Best Bets segment of this show presented to you by DraftKings.com. The next game up, you have the Sacramento Kings on the road against the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis. The Sacramento Kings are 1-point underdogs. -105 is the money line to a -115. The over-under sitting at 234. Look, very easy for me. I'm going to take the over on that 234. I know that's a high number already. It's one of the highest scoring games of the day, if not the highest. It is the highest scoring game of the day, almost by 10 full points. Most people would say take the under. It's too high of points. The thing is neither team is really playing good defense. And this could be a game where it's close all the way down. It wouldn't surprise me if this game goes into overtime. Now, I wouldn't bank on that, but it would not surprise me. Now, obviously, I'm also with the mindset that Ja is going to give it a go tonight. And if Ja gives it a go, he goes full throttle. And I like that in that matchup. And I think the Memphis Grizzlies need Ja Morant for them to actually win this game, especially with no Desmond Bane there. But look, if he plays, it's going to be a close matchup. I understand the spread. That's why I'm also leaning Kings, because I think the odds makers are looking at that questionable tag now. Because earlier in the day, the Kings were at no spread. This was at midnight last night, around 12:30 actually. And I was looking at it, and against the spread, the Kings are fantastic this year, by the way. But the Kings were no spread, only money line, and it was like -115 to -125 or -110 to -125. Still with the Memphis Grizzlies as the favorites, but now the Kings are +1. I'm still leaning that way. I'm still leaning Kings on the money line. I don't need the point. If it comes down to a point, you might as well just pick the Kings on the money line there. I still think it could go over as well. Again, this is all purely on the fact that I believe Ja Morant is going to play today. I don't think they upgrade him to questionable if they don't believe that he's actually going to be able to give it a go. So I would expect Ja Morant to play today. And if he does, I think it's going to be a very close matchup between the Grizzlies and the Sacramento Kings. The red hot Sacramento Kings, the Beam Team. Next up, you have the Detroit Pistons as 5.5-point underdogs against the Denver Nuggets with doubtful tags on Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, and Jamal Murray. So it's going to be the Michael Porter Jr. show and Bruce Brown show. Look, the Pistons show that they can go on large stretches where they can score, especially against the Sacramento Kings. The Nuggets are good defensively. I do expect them to be able to lock in defensively, and they have good matchups there. I mean, Bruce Brown going up against Jaden Ivey, that's going to slow that down. Bogdanovich against Michael Porter Jr., that's a big questionable tag. Look, I think it's a coin flip of a game on that spread. I just believe that the Pistons are playing with gritty basketball, and I do like that spread. And if the Pistons can find a way to get into Michael Porter Jr. and let anybody else get hot, let a Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, let a Bruce Brown, let a JaMychal Green, let a Jeff Green kind of find their rhythm and let those be the teams that beat you, I'm okay with that. So I think the Pistons are a smart young team. I mean, they're smart in the fact that they have Dwayne Casey as their head coach, but plus 5.5, it's a good number. It's a good spread. I like that there for them. So I'm going to go ahead and take plus 5.5 for the Detroit Pistons in that game. The over-under is sitting at 222. I like the over on that as well. I do expect this team to score points. I do expect both teams to score points. I think this game does go into the hundreds for both of them. It wouldn't surprise me if the Pistons found a way to win this game, honestly, but to almost get 6 points in this game, I think you got to take that and you got to run. Speak from one underdog to the next. Speaking of underdogs, you have the Los Angeles Lakers as 10-point underdogs to the Phoenix Suns, still without Chris Paul. Chris Paul already ruled out of tonight's game against the Los Angeles Lakers. Anthony Davis is probable to play. Missing from the injury report is going to be Russell Westbrook. He did have his hand looked at. They came back negative, so he is not on the injury report. He is expected to play in this game as well. Look, I think the Lakers are struggling as a franchise right now, and that's being nice, right? But they're a team that has still potential, and they're going to have potential due to the fact that they have talent. Anthony Davis is a talent. Russell Westbrook is a talent. And now they're getting their other guys. Now they're getting a Thomas Bryant. Now they're getting a Dennis Schroeder. What does that do for them? It might do nothing. I mean, 10 points is a lot of points to give a guy in Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook. If any of those other guys get hot, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. And the Phoenix Suns, who just recently lost to the Utah Jazz, they had trouble against size down low. They had real trouble stopping Lauri Markkanen and Kelly Olynyk. Real trouble. They could not figure it out. What are they going to do against the Anthony Davis? Ayton is a very good big. He's been kind of sluggish, though. And maybe it's just from the few games that I watched. His stats don't say anything different. His stats say that he's been playing just fine. He's been playing like DeAndre Ayton. But from the games I've watched, he hasn't been that type of guy. He hasn't been a player that you're truly worried about. Look, on the season, he's averaging 14-8. Last season, he was 17-10. I think it's safe to say that I'm going with the Los Angeles Lakers at plus 10. And that, guys, is going to be your bets for today. So just to run it back once again, we have the Philadelphia 76ers taking an L at home. We're taking the Brooklyn Nets -8 against the 76ers. We're taking the Sacramento Kings money line against the Memphis Grizzlies. So we're taking two road teams right there. We're also taking the Detroit Pistons plus 5.5 and the Los Angeles Lakers at plus 10. Dare I say, we're on a road trip today. We're on a road trip today. We're taking all the road teams. We'll see how we do. If you guys like this segment and enjoyed this segment, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit that thumbs up button if you haven't done so already, and please do me the biggest favor of all, and that hit that subscribe button. Continue growing this show, putting us in the algorithm, and putting us in your ears every single week as one of your Kings podcasts. Shout out to the sponsor Rate Crushers for sponsoring this show, and shout out to the site who gave us this opportunity to continue doing this show on this big of a platform in sacktownroyalty.com. Love writing for them, love the crew that I'm working with over there, and I appreciate all of you fans that join in every single week. Tickets on the next show will be given out, so look out for after the holiday season. By the way, happy Thanksgiving to all of you out there. Good luck on your Black Friday hunting out there if you're one of those. Keep doing you guys out there, man. Be thankful for the family that you have, the things that you have, you know what I mean? That it's just great to be around family around this time of year. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Next week, I will be giving out tickets on my show. So be sure to subscribe and tune into that one, where I will believe it will be on Monday's show. And we'll be giving out tickets on the second show of that week. I am lining up some guests for after the holiday, so stay tuned in for that. I appreciate all of you who tuned in today. Again, I have the Sacramento Kings winning today, making it 7 in a row. Should be fantastically fun to watch. Fantastically fun to watch, to say the least. Once again, thank you all again. And until next time, Sacramento Kings fans,